And I'm Willinzy Jonri.
And today we're having a conversation with Mr.
Bill Posley.
Okay, so to start out, we want to get to know you a little better. What are your favorite hobbies? What do you do on the side?
Got like interest in movies and games. Like you want to go on that endgame train?
I'm on that endgame train. I'd say movies are my number one hobby. I go see movies by myself. They're my church. I probably go twice a week if I can, if the week permits. Yeah, I love it. I love movies more than anything in the world. Yeah.
Cool. So, all right, if you were to be in a movie, what type of character do you think you'd play, or would you want to play?
God, I would have to say V from Vendetta. Ooh. If I could be anyone, I would be him. Oh man, it's so good.
That's cool.
It's so good. His character, to be that character is be on a vengeance quest, but to overthrow a government and to just be to go, you have a plan and you're I want to go away for 10 years and I want to come back.
But then you also come back with the ninja size.
Right, with the size and then super strength.
And it's the cause.
So V from V for Vendetta would be my number one choice.
Solid.
Solid choice.
Okay, so watching your show.
Okay.
You have a really cool style. Your personality really bleeds through the show as a whole. So I was wondering about do you have any comedians that you look that you aspire to be or that you...
Yeah, who influenced me throughout?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I always say there are three very major influences in the way I like to perform, and they all come from different walks of performance. As far as stand up, I was a young person when Dave Chappelle was doing Chappelle's show and he was coming up, and so his style of comedy just showed me that comedy can mean something and say something and be about something and still be funny and relevant and important, and so that's one. Also, I was a really, really little kid when I watched Mr. Bean. So Rowan Atkinson plays a character named Mr. Bean. Yeah. And the Mr. Bean movie and the series is on HBO. He also does Johnny English and all that stuff. Yeah. The physical, just throwaway slapstick comedy buffoonery is just absolutely a huge influence in my life. And lastly, it's a performance artist by the name of Maria Abramovich. Her immersive style and just pushing people beyond their limits and putting them in uncomfortable situations has been something I've fallen in love with. So yeah.
So I feel that definitely all shows.
Yeah.
Show every part of that.
Yeah. And
I guess that'll bring us to our next question, which is so what are your favorite or most memorable responses from the audience?
So this isn't even a response that I engaged. This was this so far has been my favorite response, as far from a comedic angle, and then I'll tell you my favorite response from a non-comedic angle. So my favorite comedic response is there's a part in the show where my dad explains to me what kind of black person I am, that I'm the beginning black friend, right? I make it easier for white people to have other black friends. And I compare that to being the California roll to sushi. Right. So one time in the show, I go, "That's why you're the California roll to sushi," and this black woman yells out, "That's the only roll I eat." And I was laughing. So she almost broke me. I almost broke on stage because it was that good of a call and response.
And that's nice for her to do that.
That was nice for her to say. Thanks for letting me know. One of the most touching responses I ever had was. Coming off stage, this woman said that her late husband, who had passed 5 years earlier, was half Caribbean and half Chinese, and her parents never accepted him at all. Definitely, not as a person of color, and definitely not as a multicultural or biracial person. And she really connected with my experience and. She started crying, and we put foreheads together, and she said that even though he died 5 years ago, I feel like He lives inside of you tonight. And I was like, oh my God. And like, it was just such a beautiful thing. So those are my two favorite responses on both ends of the spectrum. Yeah.
Like, were there any other instances in your college life where like certain stereotypes about like black people like manifested themselves in people's perception of you?
I was on the tennis team in college, so I played Division III tennis. I would say, oh, I have practice today. People would be like, oh man, baller. You know what I mean? What do you? Oh, they got you at spring training. What are you doing? And I'm like, no, I play tennis, doubles, second team. So there was a lot of expectations of like some of the hobbies that I did or things that I would participate in, like playing. I make a joke in the show, like tried out for plays in college, which wasn't really something that was happening for. Where I grew up, at least, there were a lot of people of color who were doing that kind of stuff. And so I think just some of the extracurricular activities that I participated in, I think kind of were different than I think what people had expected me to. Yeah.
That's awful.
Anyway, so when you were in college, did like your parents ever like push were there any expectations from them on like what you should pursue, or like where you should be sort of looking towards in terms of like college experience or like your friends that you hang out with or like stuff like that?
Yeah, other than just going to college, my parents were pretty neutral. I definitely think that they did not want the life that I live now. They definitely were not, like, hey, I want to go out into Hollywood and pursue a dream in the film industry, acting, creativity, or whatever. I mean, I would argue that unless your parents had a good grasp of what that industry was, I think most parents would not want that for their child just because of the instability of it. So I definitely think that they wanted me to have a little bit more of like a stable job or a stable, upbringing, a stable, like more settled life than the one that I currently have. As far as like pushing friends, not so much when I was an adult as much as it was when I was a kid. My dad, definitely wanted me because this is how old, black man makes, hey, you hanging with the brothers? You know what I mean? He'd always say, hanging with the brothers. And I'd always be like, who calls, we're not calling black people the brothers anymore. And it was just always so funny. But he definitely wanted to make sure that I wasn't having a full culturally white experience, I think is the best way to put that, so I think that would be the best way to, yeah.
What do you think is the most important takeaway? Like, what do you want audiences to walk away from the show from?
Yeah, I think that the biggest part that I want people to walk away from is the idea that identity is something that every person in life is dealing with, that we all go through, that it doesn't matter, race, color, creed, whatever. Each individual human being is coming in with their own identity and trying very hard to identify the way that they feel inside, right? And I think that what we do in society is we judge people within the first 3 seconds of seeing them. And that's never not going to happen. That's just the human experience. What we see, we immediately have a thought or make a decision about. Right. What I hope the show allows people to do through hearing my story and kind of some of the questions that I pose is, are you willing to get past that next 3 seconds, past that first 3 seconds, to the next 3 seconds, to the next 30 seconds, to the next minute, and realize that whatever your judgment is of somebody, if you get past that 3 seconds, you'll see a human being behind there. And you'll see a person, you'll see your similarities, you'll embrace your differences. So that's really what I hope people take away from it, is the idea that we are never going to get rid of things like, judgment or biases, prejudices. We're never going to get past any of those. I mean, get rid of them. Can we get past them? Can we take the time to get past them? And so that's what I hope people question or ask from this show. Well, we hope that the show continues, and the dream, of course, is to maybe tour it in a way that I could get to colleges, to travel around and be able to do this. So that's that's one of my big goals with the show. And then as far as what's next, is the day I became is my kind of like moniker, and there's other stories behind it. I allude to being a veteran in the show, and the next one is the day I joined the Army, and I talk about like my experience as a veteran and coming home and all that stuff, and then the next one is like the day I survived, and talking about basically it would be I joined basically the Army and went to basic training thinking that I would just get my college paid for. And then on the day I'm supposed to graduate from basic training, 9/11 happened. And so it was like, I went from just getting college paid for to now being in wartime I'm like one of the last class that signed up before they knew what they were getting into. Like I had no idea. And so then the story continues after that.
Dang, that's solid.
Get tickets for it.
Yeah, you gotta get tickets for it. So that I hope will be in the next, 2 years. Oh, yeah. So, I spent the last year as a writer on a TV show called The Neighborhood for CBS with Cedric the Entertainer.
Oh, cool, it's on right now.
Yeah. So we just finished that season, and then they'll be preparing for the second season. And then, getting back to Los Angeles, I will continue to be auditioning and creating and developing my own projects. There are things that because of this show and because of working, projects that I've kind of put on the back burner that I need to revisit, some features that I've been finishing up and trying to now take that ball to the next level. I think as an artist, like you paint a little on this canvas, then you paint on this one, and you paint on this one, but this one has a show, so you have to do that, and you put it out, and you come back home, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get this one to the next thing. And I think if you were to look at the career of a artist in any field, to relate it to a sports analogy, it seems like it looks like a whole bunch of home runs and grand slams and all that stuff, but really it's like these base hits and base hits and base hits, and like you're just missing and you're chipping away. So it's time to get back up to the plate and start swinging until you hit that home run.
Vendetta remake.
Yeah, that'd be for Vendetta remake.
Or maybe an MCU thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love. I've always wanted to be Bishop. If you're listening, I think I'm.
MCU hasn't done it yet.
Bishop's so sick.
And then the time.
Look at this, dude. I've been.
You have the hair.
Dude, I've been rocking this hair to be Bishop. So yeah.
Energy. X-Men got the rights.
Yeah,
it's all there.
It's all there, man.
It can happen now.
It's all there. So yeah, I'm putting it out with you guys, and just letting people know. But yeah, so I will be continuing to further other projects, whether that is as an actor or as a writer, or as a performer. Yeah.
All right. So this has been our conversation with Mr.
Bill Posley.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
I'm Thomas Christopher.
And I'm Willinzy Jonri.
Until next time, Broadway.